You're here for an English lesson about travel. So hopefully you are ready to maybe learn some new words and phrases about travel, or maybe you will be reviewing some of your words and phrases about travel. So today we're going to talk about travel. I'm just going to test to make sure everything is working. Just give me a sec here. I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat. I can't say everyone's name. There's just too many people, but welcome. Again, just let me test this out. Learn some new words. Looks like it's all working. So again, we're here to talk about travel. I'm not sure how many of you have traveled a lot. I personally have not done a lot of traveling in my life. I have gone to only the United States. I went to San Diego once, and I've been to the state of Michigan, and I've been to South Africa. That was a long trip, actually. But let's get started. Let's talk about travel. Again, welcome to everyone who is here for this lesson on travel. So the first word and phrase is trip. I forgot to mention one thing. If you have questions during the live stream, there is a link in the description below to a Google form, and I just posted it in the chat as well. Please ask your questions that way. It's hard for me to keep up with the chat. I know there's a lot of conversations going on there, so please use that link that I just posted into the chat to ask any questions. So in English, we just call it a trip. You go on a trip. I tried to add a little bit of a phrase with each word as well, because people were asking for a little bit of a more intermediate lesson. So you go on a trip, you plan a trip, you go on a trip, you come back from a trip, even though you go on a trip. When you return from the trip, you say that you came back from the trip. So a trip is any time you go somewhere. It can be a small trip, something that we call a day trip. So a day trip is when you leave in the morning and you come back the same day. Or maybe you are going on a longer trip of multiple days or a couple of weeks. So a trip is when you get together some things in a suitcase and you head off to go visit somewhere else. There's a few different words for different kinds of trips. Some people get these two confused. In Canadian English, a holiday and a vacation are almost the same thing. We do have days in the year where it is a holiday, where the government says no one has to work. But we also say that we're going on holidays or going on vacation. So you notice I added an S there. And you can see the phrases as well. You can go on holiday or you can go on vacation. So a little bit of a mistake here though. In English, in Canada, we would say go on holidays. So maybe I should have fixed that. But a holiday or a vacation is time away from work or school. Let me just check to see if there's some questions. I know there are some questions, and I'll paste one in. I'll probably pause every few moments just to see. Luis from Burgos Electronica says, "Hi Bob, this is your friend Luis from Brazil." Hi Luis. My question is, what is the best way to say this phrase, I will trip to? So you would say this, I am going on a trip to Canada, or I will be going on a trip to Canada. Okay, so that's the right way to say it. If you see those two questions there. I'm just going to take one more question here from the form. 1 second. This is also from Luis. It says, the words trip and travel, are they the same? And can I use one or the other in any situation? So not necessarily. So we use trip when we say things like, I'm going to go on a trip. But when we use travel, so trip is a noun, right? I went on a trip. But you would never say the same thing with travel. You would say, I'm going to travel. So you would use the verb to travel. So that's the difference between those two. But let's continue. We looked at trip, holiday, and vacation. But you might be traveling simply to visit someone. So my mom still has family in Holland, in the Netherlands, and she will sometimes go on a trip to visit them, or they will go on a trip to visit her. So there's different reasons to travel. One of the reasons to travel is simply to visit people, usually family or friends. I know that I have friends from university, and they went on a trip just to visit other people that they knew from university. So you might go on a trip because it's a vacation, but you also might go just to visit people. This word we don't use a lot anymore, but I know I have heard English learners use it, and that's the word journey. So a journey is kind of an older word for a trip or for traveling. So if you hear someone say, tomorrow I'm going on a long journey, it sounds a little bit funny because we don't use the word that much anymore. So journey is another word for trip, but it's a little bit of an older word. So a lot of people in the chat saying hi. Hi to everyone there. Just a reminder, if you have questions during this lesson, I will post the link again. Let's see here. Oh, Lolly has a question. This is a great one because this question is from Lolly, and it says, what's the difference between trip, journey, and voyage? So trip is the most common word that we use right now. We go on a trip. Journey, again, is an older word. And voyage is kind of more like, in my mind, when I hear voyage, I think you're going on a ship. And we don't use voyage much anymore. We actually use the word cruise a lot more for going on a ship because most people go on cruise ships. So great question, Lolly, by the way. When you go on a trip, you have a destination. So this is the word destination. And a destination is the place that you are going to visit. So let's say I really wanted to visit France to see the Eiffel Tower. I would tell people I'm going on a trip, and they could ask me, where are you going? Or they could ask, what's your destination? Destination's a little more of a formal word. You may be asked this at an airport. If someone says, oh, do you have your ticket? What's your destination? So this is the place that you are going to. Again, more commonly, we would probably just say, where are you going? Oh, you're going on a trip? Where are you going? And then you reply with where you're going. Before, oh, someone's saying hello from Paris. See, if I mention France, the people from Paris and from France say hello. Sometimes when you're going on a trip, you will take care of all of the planning yourself, but sometimes you will hire a travel agent, or you will go to a travel agency to have a travel agent help you plan your trip. So this is a person who helps you plan your trip. They will help you get your plane tickets. They will help you get your hotel reservations. So a travel agent is a handy person if you are going to a country where you don't know a lot. Sometimes you will plan the trip yourself. Many people plan trips themselves. And they'll just take care of it online. So when they go to book tickets on a plane or to book a hotel room, so this is to reserve a spot on a plane or at a hotel. So if I go on a trip, before I go on the trip, I need to book a flight. So I need to book with an airline so that I have a ticket. So when you book something, it means to buy or to reserve. And you also need to book a hotel room. So you need to call a hotel to get a room if you're staying at a hotel, but you aren't necessarily staying at a hotel. Let me check if there's another question. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Difference between trip and journey, we kind of took care of that. Difference between holiday and vacation. So in English, I will say, I'm going, oh, I forgot to paste this. Let me slow down here. Jai from Korea says, what's the difference between holiday and vacation? So in English, in informal English, I would say something like, this summer for holidays, I'm going camping. Or this summer for a vacation, I'm going camping. So we use them interchangeably. But holiday also means a day off work. So there are holidays in Canada that the government has said, this Monday, no one has to work. So there we go. Again, there's questions coming in that are not related to the topic of travel. I will not be answering those. Sorry, I really only have time to answer the ones that are about travel. Next question is from Bhutan, says, the difference between trip and travel is that trip is short-term and travel is long-term. Not necessarily, because my family just went to Holland and they would say, we just went on a trip to Holland, okay? But they might also describe it as saying, we were just traveling and we saw Holland and Germany and France. So you have to look at it again, like trip, to go on a trip is a noun, but to travel is a verb. Let me do one more question. And to and from business, so there's let's see, there's a voyage, trip. Would like to know some phrasal verbs. So I am skipping some of the questions because I've already answered them a little bit. Edith says, I would like to know some phrasal verbs to use with travel. So I did a video on that. If you search for Bob the Canadian phrasal verbs travel, you'll probably find one, a video about phrasal verbs for travel. I will try to find a link later for that. And let's see here. Please only ask questions about travel. It makes my job easier. Let's see here. Here is a good travel question. Thank you, Duvi. So this question is from Duvi. He says, hi, Bob. Good morning. Where have you traveled outside of Canada? So I have been to the state of Florida in the United States. I have been to San Diego in the United States. I have been to Michigan in the United States. And I have been to the airport in France on my way to South Africa, and then the airport in France on the way back to South Africa in Paris. So that's the only places I have been, Duvi. Again, people, if you have questions, please make sure you are asking a question using the link below and ask about travel only, please, because the spreadsheet is filling up with English questions, but we want to stick to the topic. Let's keep going. So I talked about tickets. This is an interesting one because a long time ago, you had to actually buy a ticket, and you had a ticket in your hand. And it's a piece of paper that lets you get on an airplane or a boat or whatever form of travel you are using. But these days, most people use e-tickets. So an e-ticket is a ticket that you buy online, and the ticket is on your phone. So paper tickets are still used, but we also are moving quickly towards only using e-tickets. When you go on a trip, a lot of times you will have a route or an itinerary. Now this word, route, you may hear it pronounced route. So route or route, we say route most of the times in Canada. And itinerary is a bit of a challenge. It's a bit of a mouthful of words, isn't it? But this is a list in order of the places you will visit. So sometimes you're going on a trip and you're going to visit multiple cities. So let's say I was going on a trip and I was going to go to Paris, and then I was going to go to Amsterdam, and then I was going to go to London. So the route that I would take would be Paris, Amsterdam, London, and the itinerary would list the things that I am doing while I am visiting those cities. So this is kind of the plan, the written plan for what you are doing on your trip. I think we're going to get into familiar. Folks, could you make sure that I see a lot of questions showing up in the chat? And so what happens is the chat goes by so fast that I can't pick out the questions. So if you use the form, that would just be great. I would really, really appreciate it. So let's take another couple questions from the forum. Christiane says, what's the difference between travelers and travel? So travelers are the people who are doing the traveling, okay? So if I go on a trip, there's a lot of names for people who are on trips. One is that they are a traveler. So there's a number of travelers going to South Africa today. So those are the people traveling. And then travel is just the actual act of moving from one place to another is traveling. Let's see here. Fernando says, when should I use trip and when should I use journey? So my take on it is this. We say trip almost all the time. We rarely use the word journey anymore. If someone says, I'm going on a long journey, it sounds funny in English because it's an older word, Fernando, that we don't use a whole lot anymore. So that's the difference between those two. Let me see here. Miroslav is here. Thanks for the Patreon, Miroslav. That's great. Let's see here. The name of a new Bruce Springsteen song is the Wayfarer. Can you explain the difference between Passenger, Voyager, and Wayfarer? Is it Let me see here. Bruce Springsteen, Wayfarer, that's the word. Yes, okay. Wayfarer. So here's how it goes, Miroslav. The difference between passenger, voyager, and wayfarer. First of all, we use the word passenger for someone who's going on a plane or boat or train. It's a very common word. So a passenger is the person who travels on those things. You can even be a passenger in a car. So if you are in a vehicle, you are a passenger. Voyager is the same thing, but we don't use that word very much anymore. And wayfarer is an very, very old word that you will rarely hear, but it means the same thing. It means someone who is traveling. So there you go for that one. Let's see here. Oh, this is a great one that I didn't talk about, but I should have. So Papi Chulo says, could you talk about jet lag, please? So jet lag, because there are time zones, right? So it's 8 a.m. here, 8:15 a.m. here. If I was to go to, let's go somewhere else. If I was to go to Japan, the time is different. So my natural sleep pattern is messed up. And so you end up sleeping during the day, or you're tired during the day because you have jet lag, okay? So jet lag is when your body is used to a certain time zone, but you've traveled to a different one. That was a great question, by the way. Who asked that again? Papi Chulo. Great questions. One more question and then we'll continue. Luis says, how many cities have you visited in Canada? Many. I think I've been to almost every province at least once. So I've been to Halifax in Nova Scotia. I've been to Victoria in British Columbia. I've been to Vancouver. I don't think I've been to Edmonton, though, in Alberta. Anyways, let's continue, folks. If you go on a trip, you need to have luggage. So this is a suitcase. We use the word luggage, baggage, bags, or suitcases. So we say things like, did you pack your bags? Or do you have your luggage ready to go? We don't use the word baggage very much in normal spoken English. It is used at the airport, but we more use the word luggage. Like, can I help you get your luggage? Can I help you carry your luggage? Do you want me to help you carry your bags? Or we use the plural of suitcase, which is suitcases. So again, this here is a suitcase, but we call all of this your luggage or your bags or your suitcases. Before you leave, someone's asking for the form to ask a question. If you look in the description of the video, you will find it. And I try to post it in the chat as often as possible. So you need to pack. So this is to put clothing and other items in a suitcase or bag. So before you go on a trip, you get together your clothes and you get your toothbrush and you get your toothpaste and you get all of the things that you need on your trip, and you pack your bags. So I think it's called to pack because the English verb to pack means to like put everything squished in a box. So you pack a box, but you also pack your luggage or pack your bags. You'll hear this phrase in a song, in some songs sometimes when people pack their bags to go on a trip. Let's see here. Oh, wait, this is ticket again. Didn't we do ticket already? Let me check. Thought we did. Yeah, we did ticket. We'll do it again. Ticket, the thing you buy to go on a plane or boat or anything that needs tickets. You also, when you travel, you need your passport. So your passport is from your government, and it's the document that declares that you were born in that country. You are definitely Canadian or Israeli or South African, whatever country you are from. But you need your passport, and they almost all look the same. The colors are different. The design on the front is different, but it's a small book that you use. And when you go through customs, they stamp it, right? They let you know that you went to that country. You get a stamp on it. Let's see here. A lot of questions. Thanks, guys. So Papi Chulo says, visit, don't stream at the same time. I understand. Why is Vanessa making a live stream at the same time as you? I don't know, but Vanessa's great. You should watch her. She's awesome. She does a great English lesson as well. You can always watch mine later. Let me just check something for a sec. It doesn't matter to me if you watch me or Vanessa. There's lots of good people on YouTube who are doing excellent stuff. So let's see here. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, that's a great phrase, isn't it? Train of thought is like an idiom related to travel, isn't it? Let's see here. Getting Phoenix, waterway and traveling related to this. Not sure I understand this question, but we'll have a look at it. Chitrazan says, hi, good evening, sir. I'm from India. Please say something about the waterway and traveling related to this. So waterways are any navigable, hopefully that's the right word, water that ships can navigate around the world. So that is what we would call a waterway. So here close to us, we have the Welland Canal. So that is a waterway that connects two lakes. So hopefully that is, let's see here. Enrique says, have you ever been to Vancouver? If so, which places would you recommend us to visit there? Thank you. I was in Vancouver a long time ago and I don't really remember the whole trip, Enrique. So it's hard for me to answer that question, but it's a beautiful city. It's a nice, warm city, almost year round. So, hey, before you go on a trip, depending on whether you want to take cash with, like bills and coins, you might need to go to a currency exchange. So this is where if I was traveling to Europe and I needed euros, I would take my Canadian dollars to a currency exchange and I would buy euros so that when I am in Europe, I would have money to spend. So a currency exchange is the place where you go when you need to exchange a certain type of money for another type of money. So not as important anymore. Many people simply travel with their credit card or their debit card or Interact card or bank card, whatever you call the card, and just use that. And that works well for them. So let's see here. Lolly asks, are abroad and overseas used interchangeably? Pretty much. Like if I was going to travel abroad or I was going to travel overseas, especially if I'm from Canada, it means I do need to cross an ocean. We have Mohammed from Malaysia. Oh, your question's a little long, Mohammed. I have to just delete a few things. There we go. Mohammed says, do you ever travel to my country, Malaysia? I have not been to Malaysia. We have rich culture shared by three main ethnic groups, Malay, Chinese, and Indian. We also have famous, clean, open beaches. Very cool. Thanks for letting me know that. Sounds like a great place to travel. Someday, when I get there, when I have enough money, maybe I will travel there. Let's see here. Dalia says, do you plan on visiting southern Spain? Someday, maybe I will visit a bit. Right now, I have to work and I have to take care of my kids. Don't have a lot of time to do all that. So here we go. Arrival time. So if you are traveling by air, your arrival time is the time your flight will arrive. I didn't go over how airplanes work. They take off and they land. Once your airplane lands at an airport, it usually, if it's on time, then your arrival time is whatever time you get to the airport. Hopefully that made sense. So if you're traveling by air, this is the time you will arrive. Often, if you are having someone pick you up from the airport, that's the phrasal verb we use, pick you up, you would tell them your arrival time so they know when to come and get you. And then the flip side is the departure time. So the flip side means the opposite. So your arrival time is when your plane gets to the airport. Your departure time is when your plane is scheduled to take off. So a lot of times too, if you are taking a flight and a friend or family member is picking you up, you will tell them your departure time from your airport and your arrival time at their airport, okay? So let's see here. Once you get to an airport, you need to go to baggage claim. Remember I told you that in everyday speech, we don't use the word baggage very much, but they do use it at the airport. So the baggage claim is the place where your suitcases come out. But if you were talking to someone at the airport and you needed to go and pick up your luggage or your suitcases or your bags, you probably wouldn't use the word baggage. You wouldn't say, oh, I need to go get my baggage. You would say, though, I need to go get my bags from the baggage claim, or I need to grab my suitcase from the baggage claim. So the baggage claim area is where all of your suitcases come out. And then everyone's favorite when traveling is going through customs. So this is where government officials, and this happens in every country. I just happen to have, I think this is in Beijing, but customs is when you go through the airport and government officials might inspect your bag. They might ask you questions. They want to see your passport. They might want to ask where else you have traveled and what you did there. They may say to you, do you have anything to declare? Anything to declare. And that means, did you buy anything when you were in the country you came from? So let's say I fly to the United States and then I fly to France. When I land in France, customs will say, do you have anything to declare? Did you buy anything? And especially when you're coming home from another country, if you go on a trip and you've bought lots of things, when you go through customs from your own government in the airport, they might ask you if you have anything to declare. Let's see here. You might, when you get out of the airport, need to take a taxi or an Uber. If you're wondering why I'm talking mostly about airplane travel, it's because that is mostly how people travel. Either you go on a small trip in a car, but usually in the world now, if you go to another country that's far away, you take an airplane. So I'm not talking much today about boats or anything, but after you get off the plane, you might need to take a taxi or take an Uber. So Uber is a new company that works like a taxi service, but you might need to take a taxi or an Uber. Hello, everyone. People are saying hi in the chat. That's awesome. Let me just check here for another question. Is aimed by tourists. Stop. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Rami Salip says, what do we call about a trip if the airplane stops between the first takeoff and my last destination? So we have what are called connecting flights. So if I take one plane from the Toronto airport to the Vancouver airport, I might need to get on a different plane or a connecting flight in order to get to my final destination if it was, say, Tokyo, Japan. So when you switch planes midway through your travel or your trip, we would say it's a connecting flight. Next question, Enrique say, what is a backpacker? So a backpacker is someone who travels light. So they have all of their stuff in a backpack, and that's all the luggage they have. And they just walk around and explore other countries. It's probably a great way to travel. Locke says, can you suggest some interesting places in Canada to visit? Well, I would visit Ottawa, which is the capital city. I would visit Quebec City because it's one of our oldest cities, if not the oldest, and it's beautiful. And I would visit Vancouver, but they're really far apart. And then lastly, I would visit Niagara Falls. It's really, really neat to see. Let me do one more question and we'll keep going. It's about... So Mojtaba says, can you please make a video on how to pronounce the Canadian provinces? Well, why don't we just say them all really quick. From the west coast to the east coast, we have British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, and Newfoundland. That's all of them. And then we also have the Yukon and the Northwest Territories above us. So I think I got those right. I hope there's no Canadians watching, and then maybe I said it wrong, but I pronounced them right. I just was worried I missed one. Hey, when you go on a trip, you might stay in a hotel. When you stay in a hotel, you need to check in. So when you get to a hotel, hopefully you have booked a room. Remember, we use the verb to book. And hopefully you have a reservation at the hotel. You need to check in. You need to prove who you are. So that they can check you into the room. They'll give you a key card or a room key card. We don't use keys anymore. Where are my keys? When you go to a hotel, you don't often get a key anymore. Like you don't get one of these. Mostly you will now get a key card. So it's all electronic now. Very cool. When you're on a trip, you might do some sightseeing. So if you go sightseeing, you are a sightseer or a tourist. So in English, we say things like, I'm traveling because I want to see the sights. So the sights are like the historic places, the interesting places, the coolest places that the country or city has to offer. And when you go to see those sights, we say that you are sightseeing. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. So here, if I went to Paris, one of the sights is the Eiffel Tower. It is one of the things that you have to see if you go to Paris. So if I went as a tourist or sightseer, I would want to make sure that I see the Eiffel Tower. If you go to a city and you don't know your way around, you might want to find a tour guide. So this is a person who helps you see the sights. So remember, we talked about sights are the cool places to see. So you might hire a tour guide so that a person can lead you around the city and tell you and show you all of the really cool and important historical places. And then while they're doing that, they usually give you a mini history lesson. So they'll show you something and they'll tell you about it. They'll show you the Eiffel Tower and they'll tell you when it was built, etc., etc. Let's go here. The question from Yan is Canada's Canadian. What is the difference? So if something is Canadian, that means that it is obviously from Canada. I'm not sure if we use Canada's very much, but if I say, you know, Canada's biggest city is it Montreal or Toronto? I don't know. One of Canada's biggest cities is Toronto. It's the possessive form, right? I'm saying that it belongs to Canada. So the difference there is if it's Canadian, it's just a general description. If we use Canada's, it means that it belongs to our country. Richard has a great question here. It is, when do you use the word board? Riding a plane, a boat, or ship, and is it check in or check into? So here we go. So you board a plane, you board a ship. I'm not sure we usually say board a train. You can say it, but usually you get on the train. But you also get on a plane. You can also get on a boat. But boarding is like when they say, you know, we're ready for boarding and passengers can now make their way onto the airplane. Okay, so that's that one. Check in or check into, it's definitely check in. So you can say, I need to check in to a hotel, but in and to are separate. Okay, let's see here. Next question is from Louise, and it is, Louise says, Bob, when we are going on a trip by plane, is it necessary to do a check-in in the airport before departing? And can you explain about this phrasal verb to check in? So yes, when you get to the airport, you do need to check in, okay? You do need to have your ticket. Usually you now go up to a kiosk and it's done electronically, but it confirms that you are at the airport. So they know that you are at the airport and you're planning to take your flight. We also say you need to confirm your flight. So that's the similar kind of thing where you say, yes, I am definitely going on this trip. Wow, there's a lot of questions here, folks. That's great. It's going to take me a while to get through them, but that's fine. Slava says, have you ever hitchhiked? I have not. So when you hitchhike in Canada, you stand on the side of the road with your thumb out and you hope someone will stop and give you a ride. I don't recommend it. I think it can be dangerous, but some people hitchhike and they love it. Let's see here. This question is from Locke. Hi, Bob. What do you think about the link between traveling and learning a language, especially English? So here's the key. Traveling to learn English is great as long as you don't go with a big group of people who speak the same language as you. So if you travel alone, if you like to travel by yourself, and you go to an English-speaking country, I guarantee you will learn a lot of English. But if you and your 3 friends all travel, like you have 3 Vietnamese friends, you're all from Vietnam, and you travel somewhere, you will most likely not speak a lot of English. You'll speak a little bit, but you will be tempted to speak Vietnamese the whole time. So let's see here. Miroslav says, and most of us need visas for traveling, which is not easy to get very often. travel insurance, boarding pass, carry-on luggage, maybe to mention. Thanks. Oh yeah, Miroslav, those are good words. So travel insurance is money you pay. So if something goes wrong on your trip, you get money back. A boarding pass is after you confirm your flight or check in at the airport, they will verify that you have a ticket and they will give you a boarding pass, which is another kind of ticket that lets you get on the plane. And carry-on luggage is one small bag, usually a backpack, that you are allowed to take on the plane. Hey, let's keep going. I will get to all the questions. I'm just gonna do this live stream till we're done. So just be patient. When you are all done at a hotel, you will check out. This box is a box where you just throw your keys in at the end of your stay at the hotel. But let me just take a little sip here. But let's say you didn't take a taxi or an Uber. Maybe at the airport, someone picked you up. So sometimes when you go on a trip, you'll phone ahead to family or friends and say, hey, I'm going to need to be picked up from the airport tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So to be picked up or to get picked up is when family or friends come to the airport to get you. So it's kind of nice. It's cheaper than a taxi if they pick you up. And the flip side of that is if you're done visiting family or friends, you will need to be dropped off at the airport. So you could say, hey, my flight leaves tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Could you drop me off at the airport at 1 o'clock? So you would say, oh, I need to be dropped off tomorrow. And here's something interesting that happens to some people when they travel. They get homesick. So when you're homesick, it means that you feel sad while traveling because you miss home. So some people really, really love traveling. Actually, I have a sheet here for that. Just a sec, let me find it. Some people have, I'm looking through my big pile of papers here. I think I made too many this morning. Some people have the travel bug. So this is someone who has a strong desire to travel. So we all probably know someone who has the travel bug. They just travel all the time. Anytime they can go somewhere, they go. These are the kinds of people that sometimes travel around the world because they love traveling so much. So we call that having a travel bug or the travel bug. The opposite would be someone who, when they travel, they are homesick. They just really, really like being home and they have trouble enjoying their trip because they're homesick. So travel bug and homesick. Opposite of getting picked up is to get dropped off. There we go. Let's see here. Marcos has a question. Here's Marcos's question. What's the difference between suitcase, bag, and baggage? Not a whole lot. So usually when you travel, you have a backpack and you have a suitcase. Or you have, we would just call it your bags, okay? Pack your bags, go on a trip. Good stuff. This is a question from Ziming. Says, hello Bob, have you traveled to China or any other Oriental countries? I have not. I hope to someday. That would be really, really fun. Michelle asking here, what is the difference between trip, travel, and journey? Thanks, Bob. So here's what I would say. The most common word is trip. Just say, I'm going on a trip. I went on a trip. I had a lot of fun on my trip. That's the best one to use. Travel, you could say, I had fun on my travels, but it sounds older. And then journey, you'll read that in books and you'll read it in the news, but in everyday English, we don't use the word journey very much anymore. Let's see. Next one. Fabio says, is there any travel destinations that Canadians love the most, considering Canada itself, North America, and the rest of the world? And what are the names of destinations in Canada that people mispronounce? So I'll do the second question first. The province of Saskatchewan, I don't even know, Saskatchewan. I don't even know if I spell it right. I didn't spell it right myself. It's such a hard province to say. Here we go. So the province of Saskatchewan, many people mispronounce. But then your first question, what is the favorite travel destination of Canadians? So Canadians love going to Florida in the United States in the winter. So a lot of people in Ontario go to Florida. And just recently, a lot of people from Canada in the winter have been going to Portugal because it's warmer there. It's very beautiful. It's very European. So those are two, Florida and Portugal, the state of Florida and Portugal. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question from Saeed. His question is, how many days are the longest vacations in Canada? So most people, when they get a job, they get 2 weeks of vacation a year. And the longer you work at that job, so you get 2 weeks of days off work. The longer you work at that job, the more days you get. So most people, if they've been at the same job for 10 or 20 years, they probably have 3, maybe 4 weeks of vacation. 4 weeks would be a lot, but most people in Canada work 48 to 50 weeks out of the year, and they get 2 to 4 weeks of vacation a year. Except if you're the boss, I think you can have more weeks than that. So let me take one more question. Let's see here. First comment, was an amazing teacher. Oh yes, thank you. Jason says I'm an amazing teacher. Thanks, Jason. Let's see. Delia says, your slides and flashcards are awesome. Could we download them somewhere to use with our students? Oh, I never thought of that. I should open the sets up to you, shouldn't I? I will do that from now on, Delia, because it's all open source. It's all copyright free. So I will do that. Hey, maybe you didn't go on a plane. Maybe you went on a cruise or a cruise ship. So this is the other type of vacation that a lot of Canadians go on. So they go on a cruise ship, usually in the Caribbean. So you say Caribbean or Caribbean. I say both. But in the down south to the east of Central America, we have the Caribbean. So a lot of people go on cruise ships, or they go over to the Mediterranean and they go on a cruise ship. And some people go on cruises in the North Atlantic around Iceland, and then over to the east around Norway and Sweden and Finland. But cruise ships are a very, very common way of traveling or going on vacation for Canadians. Oh, thanks for the super chat, Kathy. That's awesome. Not very often do people give me a little monetary tip during the live stream, but there's a little button for some of you with a dollar bill. Don't send me money if you don't have money. But if you like to buy me a coffee, that's how you do it. But thanks, Kathy, very much. Again, Bob the Canadian makes lessons for free. The videos are free. I don't need money, but if you want to give me a little tip so I can buy a pizza for my kids later or something, that's fine. But only give me money if you have money, okay? Do you guys understand that? I don't want your money. But if you have lots of money, you can give me a little bit. Bus tour. So sometimes when you go on a trip, especially as a tourist, you will go on a bus tour. This is a great way to see a city. Often a bus tour will have a tour guide who comes with. So you'll have a person, either the driver or another person on the bus. They'll talk on a microphone, like, to your left, you'll see the Eiffel Tower. It was built many, many years ago. I don't know when it was built, but a tour bus or a bus tour. Sorry, let me get that straight. This is a tour bus. When you go on a tour bus, you are on a bus tour. Is that confusing? It's a little bit confusing, isn't it? So sorry about that. There's also people go traveling so they can go camping. So camping is when you get a tent and you go out in nature. And we have another form of tourism called adventure tourism. People go on adventure tourism, adventure tours, or adventure. I think because it's new, we don't have a formal name for it, but they go on a trip where they go, this person is kayaking, they might go mountain climbing, they might go, they might go off-road dirt bike riding, but adventure tourism is for people who like to do exciting things while they are traveling. And then we have a new kind of tourism, which I don't understand totally, called Agri Tourism or Agro-tourism. We haven't decided yet. We use both these words, but this makes me laugh because this is where people pay money to go work on a farm. So it's interesting to me because I have a farm and it's really hard work, but people will pay money to go and work on a farm. We call it agritourism. Interesting. Maybe that's what we should do at home. Maybe we should have Agri Tourism so people could come and stay on the farm and work for us. Let me take a few more questions from people. Let's see here. Again, Jason is saying, this is not travel related, but Jason just wanted to say thank you. That's great. Thank you, Jason. Jason says, I'm here for the first time in the live stream and the first comment. I've been watching YouTube channel every night. Thank you very much. You're an amazing teacher. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Jason. Mo Mood says, let's see here. Hello, Bob. I highly recommend that you visit Morocco. One day visit Morocco, especially Asuri, my city. You will love it. Huge welcome. Thank you very much. I will see. Bob the Canadian is going to need, I'm going to need a lot of money if I travel this, if I travel this much in the future. Let's see here. There's a question. Do we have a WhatsApp group? We don't have a WhatsApp group, okay? I don't have time to manage it, sorry. So we don't have one. Let me see here. Oh, Richard from the Philippines has a great question. He says, when do we use the term layover? So remember we talked about connecting flights. So you take one flight and then you get from that flight to another one. You catch your connecting flight. Sometimes your connecting flight doesn't leave for several hours or a whole day. And we would say that then you have a layover. So you're either waiting in the airport or you actually get a hotel room. So a layover is when you are stuck at an airport or an airport hotel for a certain amount of time before your connecting flight leaves. That was a great question, Richard. Awesome question. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question too. Bob, could you talk about what to do when your luggage is lost between destinations? Yeah, so sometimes when you go on a trip, they put your luggage on the plane and then you get to the airport and your luggage doesn't come out in the baggage claim. So if that happens, you need to find a representative from that airline. So if you took Air Canada, you would need to go to the Air Canada desk and you would need to report to them that you lost your luggage or they lost your luggage, and hopefully they will help you find it. So, wow, thank you for the super chat. Very awesome. I think that's, the R is it ruples or is it, there's so many currencies in the world. I'll have to look this up. Thanks, Bozang. Thank you as well. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate that. The kids will get pizza tonight, maybe. Let me do a few more questions, folks. There's so many. So sometimes I mumble. Sorry about that. You're getting authentic Canadian English though right now while I'm talking. Abner, wait, where did it? Oh, Saeed says there are so many sites in Iran that I would recommend that you should visit. I would love to see a lot of the countries out that way. I would love it to come and see someday. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see here. Next question is from Amir Wadi from Egypt. Says, what's the difference between stay in and at a hotel? So you can use either. So a few months ago, my wife and I went to Niagara Falls and we stayed in a hotel. We stayed at a hotel. You can use both. They're totally interchangeable. So I stayed at a hotel, I stayed in a hotel. You can use either for sure, Amir. Let me grab another question here. Let's see here. This is a good one. Mohammed from Malaysia says, a few days ago I watched you play in the snow with your family. What do you call playing in the snow in a specific term? We just say playing in the snow. So when we go outside, sometimes when our kids have lots of energy in the winter and they're really hyper, because in the winter you're stuck inside a lot. So we say just go outside and play in the snow. So that's what we say. Hey, I have a few more sheets here. I'm not done though. I'm just going to keep going today. I don't have to work today. It's a holiday for me. Isn't that cool? So you guys get more of me. This isn't really the kind of travel any of us do, but it is a kind of travel. So we have space travel. So here you can see the space shuttle is being launched. So space travel. And then if you read science fiction or you watch movies that are science fiction movies, we have something called time travel. And none of us can do this either. But time travel is when you go back in time or you go forward in time. And currently it's impossible, and I think it will always be impossible. But we have time travel. And we also have another word for a trip in English is a getaway. So you could say something like, in the winter it's nice to have a getaway, which means it's nice to go on a trip. Many Canadians, like I said, like to go south in the winter because they like to have a little getaway where it's warmer, where the sun is still shining. Hey, let me grab a few more questions. There are plenty to go through, and I will try to get to all of them. Louise says, Bob, can you explain about the phrasal verb check-in used in airports? So it simply means to go to the desk of the airline that you're taking. So if you were taking, again, Air Canada, you would go to the Air Canada desk and you would say, here's my ticket, I just want to check in. It makes them aware that you are in the airport, and they will most likely give you your boarding pass. Although I haven't been on a plane for a few years, so things may have changed a bit, but that would be my understanding, that when you get to the airport, you need to check in. And I think you can do it at a kiosk and you can do it electronically now. Next question is from Fabio. Is there any travel destination Canadians? Oh, I think we did this one. Yes, so Canadians love to go to Florida and they love to go to Portugal. They also like to go to Arizona, the state of Arizona. Let's see here. Question is from Saeed. Why in Canada do they take money for camping? So we really like our parks. So when you camp, you go to a park. And in order to keep our parks beautiful, the people that run the park, most of them are national parks, some of them are local parks. They need money so that they can keep things looking good, to clean up the garbage, keep the bathrooms working properly, trim things, mow the lawn, etc., etc. So the reason it costs money to camp in Canada is so that we can keep it as beautiful as possible. Let's see. Oop, I think I misclicked there. We'll see in a sec. Nope, that was the wrong one. Okay, 1 second here. Click that, click that. That didn't work either. Having some minor technical difficulties here. Don't worry, I will fix it in a moment. Oh, here we go. I think I got it now. Saeed says, which is right, pick up me or pick me up? So it's pick me up. So if I was going on a trip and someone needed to come and get me, that's the other way to say it, I would say, hey, can you pick me up tomorrow at 1 o'clock? My flight gets in at 12:30. Could you pick me up at 1? That's how you would say it. Enrique. So, hey, Enrique, we did a video a while ago about buildings, and I talked about what is the difference between a hotel and a motel. So a hotel is usually a little more money and it's nicer, and a motel is usually a little bit cheaper, and sometimes the doors to the rooms are on the outside of the building. I wish I had a picture here to show you, but I don't, so sorry about that. Fernando says, from Recife, Brazil, do we need a special driver's license to rent a car in Canada? I actually don't know. I don't know. I think, don't quote me on this, that means I'm not the expert, but I think if you have a driver's license from one of the countries that we have an agreement with, I don't think you need a special driver's license, but I might be wrong, so don't quote me on it. That means I'm not the expert. Let's see here. So some people are posting their questions more than once because they're not travel questions. So if I don't answer your question, it's probably not a travel question. So sorry about that. Camille from Russia, let's just get some of these through. Says, Bob, you are an amazing person. Thank you. I want to say thanks to you. I'm learning English every day. I really like watching YouTube where I listen. Excellent. I'm glad, Cami. That's awesome. Let's see here. Not totally travel related, but I'll just take these. You can explain the meaning of drop. So simply put, when you have something and you let go of it, you drop it. See, I caught it. Did you notice that? That's tricky, eh? So I'm going to drop this there, but it's just right here. It's not magic or anything. Let me find a few more questions. Raphael says, I am a big fan of your channel. Going to delete a few things here. Raphael says, I'm a big fan of your channel. Congratulations for a great job. My question is, are there any hostels in Canada, and are they good and safe option instead of the normal hotel? So hostels are usually places where younger people who are traveling stay. They're cheaper than hotels. You usually don't get your own room. I think there are some hostels in some of our bigger cities. It is very much a common thing in Europe and other places, but yes, I think you'll be able to find hostels, and they usually are safe. Canada is a fairly safe country. We do have crime, but it's fairly safe in most places, as long as you do your research beforehand to figure out if other people have recommended it. That's what I would look for. Sergio is asking which is right, pick me up. It's pick me up, yes, sorry about that. I always get this request. It says, Delia says, could you speak a bit in French so we can see your accent? Oui, si tu veux, je peux parler un peu en français, mais j'aime beaucoup parler français, mais je suis un peu... je ne sais pas exactement le mot, mais c'est difficile pour moi de parler français quand je suis en train de faire un live stream. It's hard for me to do this when I'm doing a live stream because I'm afraid I'm going to make mistakes. But you guys feel that every day when you speak English, don't you? So, Delia says, yeah. Anyways, next, there you go, Delia. Luis says, let me get this one copied and pasted over, folks. When I lived in the United States or the USA, we heard the term snowbirds, people that move according to the season of the year. In Canada, do you use this term? Yes. So a snowbird is someone from a state or from Canada. So the places where you get snow. Snowbirds are the people who go south to Florida in the winter, or other southern states in the US. So snowbirds are people who instead of staying in Canada in the winter, or instead of staying in Michigan or New York State, the states that get snow, they head south. So we call those snowbirds. I think because birds migrate, and so we use the word snowbird to refer to them. Let's see here. Miroslav says, let's see here. To get this fixed up, let me see. How much money it's about this. Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Miroslav says it's not that we have a lot of money. It's about it's nice to show you some kind of respect for all your efforts and help. If you want to visit all the countries of your students, you need money. That's true. So so what Miroslav's talking about is the super chats. So there's a little, not all of you have it, but there's a little dollar sign down there, and then you can give me money. And I said, don't give me money unless you have money. What Miroslav is saying is that even if some of you have just a little bit of money, you like to show your respect. And I appreciate that. But again, only give me money if you have lots of it. Let's do it that way. If you're rich, give me money. If not, don't give me money. I have a job. I'm doing fine. So I don't expect it or need it. So let's go here. Saeed says, what's the difference between mumbling and giggling? So mumbling is this. Like this. You really can't understand what I'm saying. So you really couldn't understand what I was saying because I was mumbling. I was not pronouncing my words very good. Giggling is like when you're laughing and it's a really cute laugh, like that was a really bad example. Anyways, giggling is usually little kids giggle, okay? And it means they're laughing and it sounds really cute because of the way they're laughing. So let's see here. As promised, Enrique says, have you ever been to the American side of Niagara Falls? If so, which one do you prefer? Thank you. So I've been to both sides, and I prefer the Canadian side. Hopefully we don't have a lot of Americans watching who are sad about that. But I have been to, so Niagara Falls it comes from the Niagara River, and one side of the Niagara River is the United States, and the other side is Canada. And I live about 45 minutes. I live really close to Niagara Falls, by the way. And you can view the falls, you can view the waterfall from the Canadian side, or you can go to the American side. So I like the Canadian side though. There's lots of parkways and parks and walking. It's really, really nice. So let's see here. I should post the link again because I'm getting close to the end of the questions. So let me put that in there. If you have questions, please use that link. And let me get back to the list here. Let's see here. Pick me up as an amazing person, a bit of French. Let's see, there's a camping kid. Oh, yes. Here we go. This is a question from Lolly. And the question is, thank you, Genre, for the super chat. Thank you very, very much. Can you do a British accent? Please give it a try. I can't do a British accent. I can't do a British accent. It's very difficult. I can't. I can do a Southern United States accent. I don't know if I should do it though, because I don't like to make fun of people. But if y'all are from the Southern United States, you would talk a little more like this. So I hope that's my Southern United States accent. But could I do a British accent? Not very good. Anyways, Lolly has a question. Someone who stays in a hotel is called a guest. Yes. When you stay in a hotel, you are called a guest. It's very difficult. I can't. I can do a Southern United States. I'm just listening to myself now because I feel like that was... I should do it though. Yeah, I'm just going to listen to myself do my Southern American accent for a minute. From the Southern United States. Yeah, that sounded pretty good. So yes, Lolly, if you stay in a hotel, you are a guest. And Lolly, you're asking a question here. Your next question, what's I don't know. That to me is not a recognizable word, English word. So I'm not sure what that is, Lolly. What's a resverber? I don't know. Maybe it's just spelled a little bit different. So what's the best places? This is from Mariana Coelho. Where is the best place to get traveler's checks? At banks? Thanks, you're the best teacher. So traveler's checks are a form of money that you get from the bank that has insurance on it, and it's a special kind of money that you take when you go on a trip, and a bank is the best place to get them. Although I will say most people don't use traveler's checks much anymore, depending on where they're going, because they can just go to a bank machine in another country and take money out. When I went to South Africa, we did not take traveler's checks. We simply went to the bank in South Africa and took money out. So that was really cool. Let's see here. This is from Luis. It says, Bob, do you know what is the cheapest state to visit in Canada? So in Canada, just a quick correction, we have provinces. So the cheapest province to visit in Canada, I don't know, because Canada is not a cheap country. And any province you go to, you're probably going to be in the tourist area, and it's going to be a little bit expensive. So let's see here. Let's see. This is from Mohamed from Malaysia. Says, my friend is, if you're from Europe, America, or a developed country, you will feel like a king if you travel to an Asian or third world country because of its currency. Is that true? It can be a little bit true. It depends on what you're going for. But sometimes the currency exchange, there's differences depending on what country you visit. So you might visit a country where for your own currency, you get a lot of the local currency, and it can feel like you have a lot of money. But I'm not sure. I don't think I've traveled enough to answer that question well, but let's see here. Richard from the Philippines says, thanks for answering all of our questions. You're awesome. Thank you, Richard. Let's see here. Wasem Kamar says, what is the term for traveling during the weekend? It would just be traveling, going on a little trip. Like if I went somewhere tomorrow, which is Saturday, I would just say I'm going on a little trip. There's no real difference between the two. Let's see here. Jan wants to know, do you have any tips for someone taking the Ielts? Study a lot and make sure you're reading, writing, listening, speaking, and learning vocabulary every day for at least an hour for weeks. You really, really want to be prepared for that test. Elizabeth says, can you explain the difference between book and reserve? You book a room or reserve a room. Is one of them used more often than the other? No. I was using the word book because I use that a bit more. I would book a room, but you can reserve a room as well. But usually you book a flight, okay? So you don't reserve a flight. You would say, I need to book a flight to London, or I need to book a hotel room, or I need to reserve a hotel room. And then once you book or reserve a hotel room, you have a reservation. Okay, that's the noun for that. Let's see here. Delia says, did you travel to South Africa for business or for leisure? So it was for a school trip. We have a partner school in South Africa, and we went to visit them. It was really fun. It was a good trip. Let's see here. I'm out of questions, people. So if I missed your question, it probably wasn't travel related. If you have a question, you can use that form right there, and I will answer it. I'm currently just going to wait and see if any more questions pop up. Oh, I have one right here. Let's see if I can get this copied. Oh, it's Marvelous Green from Turkey says, when I travel to Canada, how much time can I stay there maximum? I don't know what the limit is for how long you can stay as a tourist. Obviously, you can stay 2 or 3 weeks. You can probably stay for a few months, but I would find the Government of Canada website and just do a search for how long can I stay as a tourist in Canada. So how long can I stay as a tourist in Canada? I'm actually typing that in right now. Let's see if there's a quick answer. It says most visitors can stay for up to 6 months. Well, that's great. But then there's some other information there. So you should do that search and you should use that as your guide. Let's see here. Papichulo says, Bob, would you talk about travel attractions in Canada? Which places would you recommend for tourists? So depending on what you want to see, I would definitely go to Banff, which is in the Rocky Mountains. I would definitely go to Vancouver or Victoria Island, or Vancouver Island, the city of Victoria on the west coast. I would definitely see Ottawa, which is our capital city. I would definitely see Niagara Falls, but you can't do that all in one trip to Canada unless you have lots of time because it's a big country. You might have to visit more than once, 2 or 3 times to see all that. Let's see here. We have from Luis. Luis is saying, sorry, Bob, by state, Bob, I made confusion with the USA. I know that Canada has provinces, yes. Let's see, the R$ sign is reals. It's from Brazil. Oh, thank you very much. That's good to know. I'll check later to see what all the different currencies were. You know, those of you that are giving me super chats, they'll have to exchange that currency into Canadian dollars. Let's see here. Next question. Korea Fabiana says, there's some kind of bus tour in big cities of Canada that goes to the mountains or forests. What's the name of this kind of bus? So they would all just be bus tours, but you would need to find one that actually visits that. Most bus tours, though, don't necessarily go to visit nature. Most of them are in big cities. Like if you go to Niagara Falls, there are a lot of bus tours. Krager wants to know what my full name is. I don't like to give my full name out. My real name is Bob, though. That's for sure. And my real first name is Robert. So Bob is actually a short form. Did you know that? And my official name is Robert. Let's see here. Ram Haif says, hi, how are you? Hope everything is good. Can you save this video on SoundCloud? So many of you have asked if I can put these live video lessons up as a podcast or on SoundCloud. I have time this summer to maybe start working on that. So I'll think about that throughout the day and we'll go from there. Let me see here. Let's see. Oop, one click. I think everyone has unforgettable experience when traveling. The worst one is maybe when you stay at a guest house and your bed has bed bugs. Yes. Sometimes people, when they travel, the place where they stay, the accommodations, that's the place you stay, could have bed bugs. Sometimes the food doesn't sit well and people get sick when they're traveling and those kinds of things. Hey, I'm gonna do some idioms. Let's finish up with some idioms. These are related to travel. I forgot to fold them, so I'm gonna have to fold them while I'm doing this. Here's one, bad news travels fast. So I think you can figure out what this means. It means that if there's something bad happening in your life, somehow people find out quickly, and good news travels slowly. We talked about this one a little bit. Some people, when they travel light. This means that you don't have very many bags, that you didn't bring a lot of suitcases. So if you travel light, usually it means that you just have a backpack. Okay, or you have one bag because you like to travel. You know, when you have lots of luggage, it can be kind of annoying, right? Because you have to carry all your luggage. But if you travel light, then you can go places really quickly. Sometimes we use the phrase off the beaten track. So this means a place where not a lot of tourists go, or where not a lot of people know about. So I might know a really cool beach on Lake Erie that's off the beaten track. And this means that if you go there, it will be very quiet because not very many people know about it. So off the beaten track. When people go really fast, we say they're going a mile a minute. And we use this to describe other things as well, like people talking. Some people talk a mile a minute. So it's another way to say that they're talking really fast. Like, wow, that girl really talks a mile a minute. That would mean that person is a really fast talker. Hey, I'm not done, but I'm just going to post the link again so that if there's questions while we're doing the idioms, I just have a few more left here. We have a saying in English, all hands on deck. So the deck is the top part of a ship, but we use this phrase in everyday life. So let's say at home our house is messy and it needs to be cleaned up. We might say, okay, kids, all hands on deck, let's clean the house. This would mean that both myself and my wife and all our children are cleaning the house. So all hands on deck. You might also have this, maybe you're building something and you need help, and you might go to 3 of your friends and say, hey, this is kind of an all hands on deck situation. I need your help. Sometimes a road splits into 2 roads, and we call that a fork in the road. But we also use this to describe life. Sometimes in life, you are at a fork in the road, which means you're at a spot in life where you have to make a decision. So that's what a fork in the road is. I'm just going to wrap things up in a bit. Again, if you're new here, you should click the subscribe button below, and everyone should give me a thumbs up if this is helpful. If it's not helpful, don't worry about it. But if this is helpful, subscribe, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. I have a few more things here. Sometimes we tell people to cool their jets or cool your jets, and this just means to relax. So airplanes have jet engines, and when they're hot, they need to cool off. But sometimes people get a little hot under the collar. That means they're a little bit angry or worked up, and we'll say, hey, cool your jets. It means just cool down. Oh, and I have another one here. So we use kilometers in Canada, but a mile is something they use in the UK and the United States. I think they use it in the UK still. But a country mile is longer than a normal mile. It isn't really, but we use this to describe, oh, that's out towards this town, but it's a country mile. So it means it's far away if you say something is a country mile. A couple more here. If you are in charge, if you are the boss of something, we say that you are in the driver's seat. So this means that you are in charge. When I am in my classroom, I am in the driver's seat because I'm in charge of the classroom. We also have something called a back seat driver. This is someone, literally, this means someone who sits in the back seat and tells you how to drive. But we use this in life as well. So if you're doing a project and you're making all the decisions, but someone keeps telling you what you should do, we call them a backseat driver. It's like, hey, I'm doing this project. Stop telling me what to do. You're being a backseat driver. And sometimes, people are going to laugh because I'm going to say boat. If you have a difficult situation in life and a friend or a relative has the same problem, you would say that you're in the same boat. So let's say my car breaks down and I call my brother to ask if I can use his car, and he says, my car is broken too. We would say that we're in the same boat. And then here's the last one. This is for how we would describe someone who travels a lot, maybe for business. We would say that they are living out of their suitcase. Maybe actually my brother had to go on a trip to 4 different cities in Europe for business. So for 3 weeks, he was living out of his suitcase. He had to live out of his suitcase. So that means someone who travels a lot. Hey, let me check if there's any last questions, and then we'll wrap this up. Let's see here. It's too early for live streaming. I have to find my spot here. Video sound. Here we go. So here's the first one. Adolfo Carrillo says, Bob, it's too early for a live stream. I can barely keep my headlights open here. It's 8 a.m. I'm just starting my engines. Yes, just getting going for the day. By the way, for those of you that are still watching, don't forget that if you come back tomorrow, you can watch this again and it will have subtitles. It's always good to watch it twice. I know it's a big time commitment, but you can watch it again tomorrow. It will have subtitles tomorrow. Rogerio says, is it true do native speakers tend to invent or create phrasal verbs in a slang way? Sorry for my English. No problem, Rogerio. So English and every language, they are developing over time. So there's new words all the time. So a new word right now would be, if something's really cool, we say it's lit. So that's a brand new word just a year ago. Sometimes those words make it into the dictionary after a couple of years. So, and I think it happens in every language, actually, Rogerio. Let's see here. Saeed says, why do some people tour their passport at the airport? I'm not sure, Saeed. I'm not sure if you mean to rip up. I don't think they would do that, but I'm not sure how to answer that question. Again, Vlad is asking, what is your full name? Vlad, I don't give out my full name, sorry. How many times have I visited the United States? So many times, because I have family in the state of Michigan. So I tend to visit once in a while, not every year, but regularly enough. Let's see, this one is, Richard from the Philippines says, could you share the different motion sickness we get? So motion sickness is something people sometimes get when traveling because they're not used to being on an airplane. When you're on a boat, we sometimes call it being seasick. So you can get seasick on a boat because the boat moves and you're not really used to it, right? So it makes you feel a little bit funny. Oh, this is a great question, Louise. What is the best time of year to visit Canada as a tourist? So that really depends. If you like snow, come in January. If you don't like snow, come in July. So July 1st is Canada Day. So it's Canada Day weekend here. It's a holiday on July 1st because we celebrate Canada. So July is a great month. If you can get to Ottawa on July 1st, you would love it. It is a great celebration. Let's see here. Christine Chitrasan Biswal says, sir, please upload this video so that we can watch it again. So this video will automatically become a watchable video as soon as the live stream is done. If you wait 6 to 12 hours, it will have subtitles at the bottom. And that is a great thing to do is to rewatch it. Don't forget to rewatch it tomorrow. Maybe you can just watch the sections that you didn't understand. Especially if you have trouble understanding me, watch it again tomorrow with the subtitles on. Click the CC button. Very, very helpful. Let's see here. Next question. Oh, it's a little bit long. Let's see here. Elizabeth, thanks ever so much for answering the questions. So nice to hear the answers live. What about the word voyage? Is it used in everyday conversation or is it kind of old? It is kind of old. Like I wouldn't say I went on a sea voyage. We just wouldn't say that anymore. You will see the word voyage though when you read, and you'll probably see it in the news. You'll hear about, it was a long voyage, that kind of thing. But usually we just use the word trip. Okay, so I'm not sure why people keep asking for my full name, but I'm not giving out my full name. Sorry, people. Chitrasen says, sir, upload this video so we can watch again. I think I did that one already. Sorry about that. And Susanna says, do you prefer to travel with a car or plane, and have you been to France? So no. Well, sorry, I've been to the airport in Paris, that's it. And Susanna says, do you travel by car or plane? I like traveling by plane because when I travel by car, I have to drive and then I get tired of driving. But on a plane, you can just sit and talk to the person you're with. So it's very, very cool. I'm just going to answer one question here. I go live on Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 12 GMT. And I go live on Saturday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. So I do 2 lives a week. This one's almost done, folks. We're going to wrap this up. Let's see. This is going to be the last question I sent. Oh, so Papi Chule says, what's your advice for people who do not understand cultural differences and they don't want to offend people when they travel? Just maybe do a little bit of research before you go. Like if you were to visit Canada, I would go to YouTube and I would search things to know when visiting Canada. And then you'll probably find a video that helps you. and you'll be able to figure out, okay, don't do this, this is acceptable, and go from there. You'll learn about whether it's acceptable to tip or not tip, to negotiate prices or not negotiate prices. But that's what I would do. Search for things to know when visiting Canada, or things not to do when visiting Canada, or whatever country you're from. So anyways, folks, I think I am going to wrap this up. That means that this is the end of this live lesson. I've gotten through all of the questions that came in. Thank you very much for them. Thank you for the super chats. That was pretty funny. Pretty fun. Sorry, not funny. It was fun. That's I made a mistake there. Funny would be like, I didn't like it, but fun means I did like it. So that was great. And I just want to say, again, hi to everyone that was in the chat. Thank you for those who were able to submit questions via the form. We will do this again next week. Don't forget to watch this again tomorrow. Click the subscribe button if you haven't. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to watch this again tomorrow with the subtitles on to help you. Subtitles will be available in about 12 hours. So it takes a while for the subtitles to show up. And please share this video with anyone you know that's learning English. And thank you so much for watching. I'm going to say thanks for watching in the chat. I can't type today. I keep making mistakes. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. And again, there will be another live stream tomorrow evening. So next live is Saturday, which is tomorrow, at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is from the farm. And that is meant just to be a listening and conversation practice. I do want to mention a lot of people ask grammar questions on the Saturday night live stream, but I'm not interested in that being a grammar lesson. It is very much for you to just have a conversation with me. You can ask me questions about myself, about Canada, about the farm, and I love to answer them. You can ask me questions about how to say certain things, but it's more meant just for us to hang out, just to spend some time together. But anyways, I'm Bob the Canadian. I think I have talked long enough. I hope that you are having a good evening or a good morning or a good afternoon. And I hope you all have a really good weekend. I'm gonna push the button now that turns this off.